that
So
switches cameras.
Yeah, so if you what you do if you have both cameras and you get both audios and you put them into Premiere Pro, you can download a extension for it, and then the extension is called Multicam Editor, and without you doing that, you can just leave it and record off both, put both recordings in, sync them to the mouthpiece of what they're saying, and then if you go to jump between camera, it'll do a 2-hour edit in about 2 minutes.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, that's how I
That
edit
is probably one of the good parts of AI.
Yeah, it's wild.
Is it so? Oh, we're on, by the way.
Oh, okay, no worries.
For people who don't know, a lot of people on the channel actually already probably know you.
Yeah,
I've had heaps of mates that wanted me to say hello to you and say thank you for your service.
No worries.
Sam Bamford.
Yeah.
Bamford. He served in the Australian military. You have your own podcast called Two Worlds Collide, and now you're dabbling into more like just world commentary and kind of news-related commentary and your thoughts on certain aspects of things, and that's kind of really popping on Instagram at the moment.
Yeah, I like to call it more common sense commentary, to be honest.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that it's a political commentary, but I like to cover off on common sense stuff and just put my view on it.
Yeah.
I think especially over the past couple years, voices like myself has been really suppressed on the global stage, especially throughout COVID with...
I think that's when it all started falling apart, to be honest. When COVID, that's when the cracks started showing.
Yeah, and they actually had... we didn't really think that misinformation or disinformation was a thing, and silencing people's voices was also a thing. We're like, we'll just believe what the media tells us. But my change was when they tried to silence Joe Rogan and other people in that world when they were speaking up against the vaccine and that sort of stuff. And I thought to myself, hang on, if they're trying to silence him on these issues, what have they been silencing everyone else on? And that sort of, mate, spurred me on to really talk up in the last probably the last few months to really drive into some of the things that I'm seeing happen within Australia, and I try to stay predominantly Australian based with a lot of this stuff.
Which is good, because so many people, I know personally, I follow American politics and American...
It's a rock show.
But it's the greatest fucking reality show of all time. America's just fun to watch because it's just so ridiculous. And their politics, obviously... I know way more about American politics than Australian.
I think that's... Majority of Australians would be like
100%. It would have to be like 85% of Australians.
Definitely.
Like, their presidential candidates have some flavour and they're a bit... they're entertaining to watch, whereas... Albanese is just like a fucking piece of cardboard.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I mean, the next few months is going to be really, really interesting, especially when Penny Wong goes over to the States and when this meeting with Albanese and Trump finally happens. I think there's a strategic ploy to his tariffs coming in. I don't think the tariffs are just the tariffs. I think the tariffs are, I'm going to tariff the world because the Western countries of the world, England, Germany, most of Europe and Australia, are now suppressing free speech laws. So I think what's going to happen is Trump is like, here's my tariffs. I will take your tariffs away on Australia if you stop suppressing free speech. And I think that's just a ploy, because I'm thinking to myself, yeah, look, the tariffs are there, but Donald Trump's too smart for this. I think, and I think the American government is too smart for this as well. I think there is something behind the tariffs, and I think it's to take away the laws that are coming into us with free speech in the Western world. So they're taking that away. So, a lot of people were hating Donald Trump for it, but I see it as a tactical ploy with what's about to happen. I think that won't get announced as a like from Donald Trump about, hey, we did the tariffs for this. It'll just quietly happen over the next few months. You'll probably see a lot of these free speech laws disappear from Australia. These not free speech laws. You'll see these laws be enacted again, the ones that are trying to be suppressed at the moment by this social media ban and stuff like that, which I don't totally agree with, don't totally disagree with. But when we have to start to upload IDs and that for getting onto YouTube, I think we're getting down a slippery slope of suppression.
Yeah, I really, really, really like I was saying off camera, I really subscribe to like ignorance is bliss.
Yeah.
And I just live my life because I know that as soon as I fucking like as soon as Israel bomb fucking Palestine and I'm on Twitter and I fall into that Twitter hole, it just really consumes me to the point it is detrimental to my fucking mental health.
And you sit there and you get angry.
And they just you don't know what's real because they just fucking fearmonger you.
Oh, big time.
They just put all of this fear into you because they know that it's great for audience retention. Like the best thing for audience retention is fear.
Yeah, and you also got to look at the propaganda war. You know, propaganda has been a part of mass warfare for thousands of years, not just the past 100 years. You look at the Alexander the Great. You know, he was big on propaganda. The Roman Empire to understand their people and ensure they got
Russia.
this. Yeah, Russia were the same.
Union.
Everyone that has conquered any part of the world knows that propaganda is a massive tool of warfare, and it's no different in today's society. America have propaganda campaigns. Australia has propaganda campaigns.
It's just harder to introduce it into like countries that aren't war torn. So there's different tactics in like Western countries.
Yeah.
Probably, I'd
exactly
imagine.
right. And you know, the Israel and Palestine, it's such a tough subject to.
They're both like when people say, "Where do you?" I don't have fucking any allegiance to either. Like, but personally, I don't give a fuck about either. Like that whole part of the world, people might fucking berate, like look down on the opinion. I don't give a fuck about any of that part of the world. I just don't. They've tried to kill each other for fucking 300 years.
Yeah,
like,
or longer, mate.
Longer, thousands.
I watched a documentary the other day because, man, I'm my one of my massive passions is excuse me, is history, you know, and understanding what the great conquerors of the world, Alexander the Great. I have watched so many videos on that guy. It's just it's unreal what he did. So I'm a huge history buff, and I watched a YouTube documentary the other day, and someone was claiming that it was that land was Jewish land from 5,000 years ago. And I thought to myself, it's like, mate, that is predating
it was no
the
one's
Romans.
land.
That was predating the Romans for 3,000 years. It's like, and then he went through and it was obviously it was a very one-sided Israeli documentary, but I like to watch the other side as well. So, mate, it was so amazing what people think and like I might be speaking out here as well, and I don't really know the history of it as well, but mate, when people try and go back and they try and say, well, the history is 5,000 years ago, that was Jewish land, and now the Jewish people own it. It's like, well, we sort of got to scrap history. The current day is whoever has the biggest gun controls the land.
Yeah.
And right now, the Israeli military is one of the greatest militaries in the world. And a lot of people hate me saying that, but they are. They are one of the most advanced militaries in the world. They have some of the best tech in the world. And they are backed by a US government that'll print billions to keep them running. So
it's hard to beat.
And also as well, you know, like USA love Israel because the strategic location they are in the world in like terms of geographical position. If you imagine where Israel is, it is surrounded by Middle Eastern countries that don't agree with or might not agree with, or they do align with them, but they don't have the Western values of what the USA and Europe has. So strategically, America loves Israel being in that position. One, because a lot of tech comes out of there, a lot of military tech comes out of Israel, and they work with them. And then also, Israel's CIA agency called Mossad, a lot of intelligence gathering comes out of Israel from all these other countries. So that's why America loves them. But then there is a rabbit hole, and I don't want to go down this because a lot of people do clips from social media and can kill me on it, but there's a big rabbit hole with Israel, the Jews, and all that. But
you'd be here. That'd be like a 4-hour podcast. I love myself a good conspiracy theory. So, but that's why. So my parents originally are from a little island just off of Greece called Cyprus.
Yeah.
And Turks invaded, and they occupy like a third of it still.
Yeah.
And it's just because of geographical positioning. It's just perfect. Like the British loved it there because of the geographical position of it. Because it's just out of fucking the Middle East. Like you can see Lebanon from my dad's village.
Yeah. And then before the Turks, it was the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah. I rather than conquerors, I used to love watching videos about dictators.
Yeah.
I love watching, like, there's a fantastic podcast series called Real Dictators. I think it's just on Apple Podcasts, and it just follows like a different dictator for like 2 or 3 episodes about an hour
I've
each.
seen that. It's great.
So fucking interesting.
It is.
They all got the same blueprint. Like, all of them have the exact same blueprint.
Yeah, and a lot of them have really shit upbringings. Have you noticed that? A lot of them are
a lot of
poor.
them genuinely start out like
Poor.
and they want to make a change.
Yeah.
And then they just pivot into like extreme evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting.
Yeah, like you look at how Hitler grew up, mate. He grew up in a pretty poor family. I think he was maybe Polish. He wasn't
Austrian.
even German. Oh, Austrian,
Yeah.
sorry. And yeah, mate. Well, like he got World War II started because of World War One, right? So the reason World War One started was because some 16-year-old tried to assassinate someone in one of them Yugoslavic countries, and then 2 sides went to war, and it was the most pointless war ever. But World War II was birthed out of World War One, and Hitler, he served in World War One, and then obviously out of that there was so much because of the sanctions the rest of the world put on Germany after World War One. They became a bankrupt nation that was just losing it. Their dollar got printed into oblivion, and then after that, that's when you have your extremism rise up, because everyone is so poor, they are having family members die from starvation. And then they have someone like a Hitler rise up, bring power back to the people, and they follow this totalitarian dictatorship out of tough times. And he actually brought Germany back to like a really good level of state. But the problem is that he just wanted to murder everyone.
Yeah.
and then from there he didn't want to stop, and he was on meth. Some of the cocktail drugs that he was on. Even I know we're spitballing a bit here, but one of my wildest points about, or bits of information about World War II, the Blitzkrieg, right? That's how Germany effectively managed to take over pretty much Europe in the matter of months, right? They had this thing called the Blitzkrieg. It was developed by Hitler, and they would get their panzer divisions, and they would just, for days and days, they would just hammer points and lines within the German frontier, or not the German, sorry, the France frontier, and they would blitzkrieg it through. It's a very, very interesting documentary. Just type in Blitzkrieg to YouTube.
KRIEG.
Yeah, and they pretty much just crush a point with panzer divisions, and that was the tanks, and then they just hammer it in. And the reason they did this and so fast effective is because the German military, one of their rations in their ration packs was meth in tablets. So these guys
On fucking performance enhancing substances.
So he had an army on meth.
Yeah.
They didn't sleep for weeks and just destroyed the French army, because these guys are like, hang on.
How are they staying awake for fucking 2 weeks at a time?
They've been going for 4 fucking days now, and we need to sleep. So that's how they effectively took over countries in a matter of weeks, because they didn't have an army that slept, because they're all on meth. That's very well documented as well, by the way.
That's very funny.
Yeah.
It's it's like a very funny way to start winning a war. But yeah, World War. I'm pretty well versed on World War II. I know really sweet fuck all about World War One.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same with it. World War One is
I actually don't even know the main causing factor of World War One.
It was Archduke Franz Ferdinand. He either got assassinated or tried to get assassinated by a very young individual, 16 years old.
Teenager, yeah.
And they call it the shot that echoed around the world, because it was one shot, and pretty much from there you had a bunch of countries back one country, and then you had the Western world like France and that back another country, and they went
Sounds like the perfect plan.
Mate, they literally went to war over it, over one shot, and it didn't need to happen. And then from that war, that enacted World War II, because of the rise of Hitler became from that World War One, and the desperation of the German people, how they were just
She got decimated.
Yeah, well, their currency collapsed, and when your currency collapsed, mate, it is all over for a country.
Do Do you ever foresee a situation where because World War III is such a hot buzzword as soon as fucking, Israel's bombing fucking Palestine, Iran just bombed fucking Israel, it's World War III, and then I even get fed into it, I'm like, we're all fucked.
Yeah.
Do you ever foresee there being an actual World War III? Because I don't.
Not really. I think the next war will be a currency war.
Yeah, it'll be played with politicians and...
Yeah, and it'll be played by bankrupting people's countries, and it won't necessarily be warfare like we've seen in the past, but potentially knocking out people's grids. I watched a great documentary the other day. It was about if you knock out someone's grid and take away their currency as a country, how long would it take for people to start eating each other?
A week.
Yeah, they reckon the starvation of people will kick in about 3 to 4 weeks. From there, what they'll do is they'll form groups and little like hood gangs.
Yeah,
and they'll hunt each other.
If the grid went out, I'd be part of a gang in fucking 10 minutes.
You have to survive. You'd have to.
If you knew it wasn't going to come back on, the longer you wait, you are fucked.
Yeah, and then
you saw it during COVID. People acted like fucking degenerates over nothing.
People were going at each other for toilet paper.
Yeah, I saw a grown like 45-plus-year-old man spit on a 14-year-old girl at fucking Woolies.
There you go.
Because she wouldn't sell him 2 cartons of Coca-Cola.
Over Coca-Cola. Drink some water, you fat fuck.
But
Jesus.
It's like... you really found out who people were during COVID.
Yeah, you did.
Like, it separated the people who were fucking mentally unstable from, like, the people that weren't.
Yeah, and just the panickers out there as well.
I have so many friends that fucking have not recovered from it. Like, that they have, like, fucking serious PTSD from it.
And that's about that. That's one of the things. I mean, what we were talking about before is COVID woke a lot of people up as to, how we see what we see and where we see it.
I thought it was pretty fucking fun just to monitor from the outside because my life didn't change. I was fucking working. Like, my life was not affected at all. It was actually kind of beneficial for our business and what I do, like, outside of this.
Yep.
Like, it was very good for us.
Yeah.
But I can imagine, like, if for other people's livelihoods and mental health, it wouldn't be.
Yeah.
But I've always been, like, a conspiracy theorist. I've fucking had, like, years where I've listened to Alex Jones every day and fucking listened to a Joe Rogan podcast every day. And I've lived in that kind of conspiracy mindset for years. So when this happened, I didn't, like, fucking snap. But some people, the penny dropped for them. They're like, the government doesn't have our best interest at heart.
Yeah, and
the government can do whatever they want, whenever the fuck they want.
100%. I mean, and like we'll get into that in this podcast where I'll sort of expose some of the things of what our government is doing at the moment. But mate, I totally agree. I think
the coal. I didn't even know
the coal and gas and our natural resources.
I didn't even know.
I'll blow your mind with some stuff. We can go down there.
I've never ever heard that before. I did not know that happened, and I'm fucking paying $1 million a quarter for my electricity.
It's mate. It's one of the things that Australians, if we can forge together and have a connected voice on this, and a lot of my stuff that I put online, might divide people from right to left, but natural resources is something that it doesn't matter where you sit on the scale of things. If we are willing to sell and export our natural resources, coal and gas overseas for other countries to burn, yet we're not allowed to burn it ourselves because it's bad for the environment, it just doesn't make any sense. The hypocrisy of the government is so far to one side that we are just getting screwed as Australian people, and they're wrapping it up in this green energy climate change narrative that attacks people's morals, and that's where we're falling over as a country. Like, I'll give you a stat that'll make so many people on this podcast probably a little bit angry, but it's something that needs to be highlighted. Our natural resources, we're the 3rd largest exporter of natural resources. Now, a lot of people call natural resource fossil fuels. I just call them natural resources. So coal, gas, lithium, nickel, iron ore, stuff like this, right? So natural resources. We're the 3rd largest exporter of fossil fuels in the world. We export something like $450 billion a year worth of natural resources. Now, energy bills for Australians, I'm not talking domestic businesses or anything like that, right? I'm talking household energy bills. How much do you think worth in billions do Australians pay of household energy bills a year?
Oh, I'd have to say like
I'll let you know. It's roughly around 15 to 25 billion. So if
we
we
could have free electricity.
yeah, so if we and we don't even need to do a 20, 30 or 40% tax. If we did a 5 to 10% tax on our natural resources when they leave the country, right? We are literally giving away our natural resources as a country away for free. And if we tax 5 to 10% of them, we could not only cover household electricity bills for all Australians, we could reinvest that into, even if they wanted to go the green energy, both solar and wind, whatever. But we should be having, as Australians, if our energy bills should not be covered for 100%, it should at least be covered.
It should be subsidised at least 75%.
75%. Because if you cover them 100%, people just get stupid with it and they'll just leave lights on and shit like that. So you have to have maybe some little bit
Everyone will have like a grow house in there.
Yeah.
Everyone will start growing marijuana.
But do you know what I mean? If you had just like a little bit where it kept people honest with paying 10%,
yeah.
Then people would be like, okay, maybe I won't leave this light on. So
I don't know how fucking people's like. I'm lucky. I bought my house when I was really young, and just rented it out, and I like did the appropriate things to like not have a fucking $800,000 mortgage, and I see people that rent and pay like $750 a week rent for a 2-3 bedroom house in Morphevale or Hackham. And then they got to pay electricity and gas.
it shouldn't be like this.
It's fucking wild.
It should not be like this. And a lot of this started from COVID. If you want to get back to the real, and this is my opinion, if you want to get back to the real basics of why inflation is inflation, it's not because of China. It's not because of the Russian war and stuff like that. It's because of the outcome from COVID of printing money. Now, money printing, and this is open source information, so anyone can find this. Our M2 money supply, so that's like cash, money in banks, deposit in banks, stuff like that. So all the cash that's in the Australian circulation at the moment, AUD, from 1972 when the Fed was first invented to 2020, we printed about $1 trillion. From 2020 to 2024, we printed approximately $600 to $800 billion. So we flooded the Australian market with AUD from about 60 to 80% of dollars. What does that do? That means there is more dollars competing for less items. What does that do? Raise inflation. It is so fucking simple when you put it like that. And a lot of Australians will sit back and go, oh, it's China, oh, it's Russia, it's this. It's like, no. It's our government printing way too much money in too short of amount of time. Now, what's happening at the moment to counteract that? They're rising interest rates. And what they've also done is they've changed the way that they analyse inflation. So they did. Inflation previously used to run off a rolling data chart from years and years. Now they just capped it at 2 years. So inflation from 2020 is still up 45%, but because they've capped it to a 2-year rolling average, it's only up 2%. That's how they counteract the graphs to make it
look not as bad.
Exactly right. So, one of the first things that I would do if I was in any like bit of government or in control is, what we need to do straight away is we need to ensure that our Australian government is making more money than they spend, because what happens when they don't make more money than they spend? They print the difference. So when they print the difference, that's just more money in circulation competing for less items.
The dollar.
Yeah, it devalues the dollar. And everyone's like, hang on, why is that house now costing 3 times, or not 3 times, over-exaggerated, double of what it did 5-6 years ago? Because our government overspend and they print the difference. It's a silent inflation. So what do they need to do? They need to ensure that we are not spending more than we're earning, like any good business would do. And one way you counteract this is anyone that's in control of the government and in that source, they do not get paid if Australia does not make a profit. How simple of a fix is that? I can guarantee you, if you made that the case, every politician whose pay relies on that outcome would actually do something about it, but so they don't.
You said, like before, like very briefly before, you said like 3 times, but then adjusted yourself to maybe double of it. This house is worth 3 times what I bought it.
There you go. Yeah,
like 3. Yeah. But like that's actually like, and another reason that this is happening is because they fucking allowed like all these international fucking people to come in.
That's another huge thing. So
to Australia and just fucking buy up all of our properties.
Yeah.
Like in McLaren Vale, a lot of those massive fucking farms and shit, a lot of the big farms you see in Australia, they're all owned Chinese. They're all Chinese owned.
Yeah.
Or they're rich investors from overseas who purchase properties in Australia for I don't know what reasons, maybe tax benefits or visa benefits. I don't know, but I think the biggest fucking station in Australia is actually owned by Chinese, like a Chinese owned as well.
It wouldn't surprise me at all. I mean, majority of our land. I mean, most of the stuff in Sydney now is getting foreign owned. Because
my parents are immigrants, I do have like I don't believe in like an anti-immigration policies and all this kind of thing, but there are certain people that I think shouldn't fucking be allowed here,
mate. And neither am I. A lot of people think that I am. I'm very anti-immigration. I'm not. I think that immigration needs to be pulled back to 2015 levels, which was 150,000 a year.
Yeah, and don't be a fucking. Don't let in rapists.
Exactly.
That's like
right.
That's a big one.
Yeah, and that's the problem, right? So 10 years ago we had an inflation policy of about 150 to 2,100 a year, right? And that's how many we would let in. Now we're running at something like 500,000 to 700,000 a year.
Yeah.
Now, with that change comes an increased amount of people. You have to pay more money to subject these people to stuff like checks, background checks, who they are, where they're from, and you're going to get more people slip through the crack. Now, the second issue that I have with this is, and this is where I get called a whole bunch of stuff online for calling this out, is if we do have people come from these countries and they commit serious crimes, I'm sorry.
Send them fucking back.
Yeah. Our tax-paying dollars do not need to go to housing these people in prisons. Now, a lot of people do say, yeah, but they did the crime here in Australia, so they need to do the time in Australia. I mean, that's okay, but at the same time, do you want your tax-paying dollars to go to giving this guy 3 square meals a day and then also giving him housing, electricity, all this stuff that runs a prison, when we can literally just put him on a flight and get him out of here? Now, a lot of people might say, yeah, but the country that we got him from doesn't want him. Well, I'm sure there's a deal that the government could do where we could send these people back home. And I'm sure there's a way that we could press our force within the world, especially with countries that aren't as big as us. I don't have it. If we were to go to like, hey, Russia, take all your people back. It's like, well, they've got nuclear weapons, so how about we just back off on that? But if you're going to a smaller country in Africa or in the Middle East, it's like, you need to take your guys back, and they say no. It's like, well, we're just going to drop them back. So, do you know what I mean? There's nothing that they can do back to us. But then what would happen from there is the political left would come out and be like, oh, these people have feelings, they have thoughts. Or it's like, well, they broke the law when they came in the country. Doesn't matter what they do, they need to get out of here, especially when they're running around with machetes or they're raping people or anything like that. I'm sorry, they have lost the right to come into Australia. And then, my next point, obviously, with that is like, I read a very interesting report this morning of the people that are coming in the country at the moment. 50, and this is I just read an article this morning, so don't go and fully quoting me this and spraying it everywhere, not to you, but to everyone listening. I think something like 50% of new arrivals that are coming in for a certain amount of months are on benefits, and a lot of these people are just not getting work and not doing work because they're on benefits.
Well, yeah, if you come to Australia and you're earning $500 a week, where in your country that is like a really good fucking wage, why would you? Why would you work? You've already made it.
Yeah. So,
but a lot of these people, don't get me wrong, a lot of like immigrants fucking add heaps of flavour to Australia, and Australia would not be anywhere near as great a country as it was unless we had all of these migrants. But you draw a fucking line in the sand when they start fucking stabbing everyone.
Yeah, and mate, there's
and you can't say that now because God forbid you have fucking pride in your own country in Australia.
That's right.
But like I have this argument with people all the time, especially like Indigenous. I've had arguments with Indigenous community members and stuff. I have no white guilt whatsoever because I'm not fucking white. Like, I'm not from here. My parents weren't a part of like the fucking genocide of Australia, so I have zero white guilt. So you can't put that shit on me.
Yeah,
like I'm proud to be Australian. I don't give a fuck. I celebrate Australia Day. I love it.
Yeah, and that's also another very touchy subject to go down is all this reparation stuff and treaties and stuff like that. Like I know in Victoria they're going through at the moment with Jacinta Allen's government where they're bringing back in a treaty when it wasn't when the people didn't get a referendum, or we did. We got a referendum. We voted no, but state governments are doing it anyway. In South Australia, they gave a voice to Parliament. They didn't let anyone know about it. They just put it through the government. And this was 7 months before our national vote and voice referendum. So South Australia jumped the gun, didn't tell anyone. They had a voice to Parliament. They got it in there. And then what they did in 2024, they then gave the Indigenous people of South Australia a vote to come out and vote for their representatives to be that voice to Parliament. Out of the 30,000 Indigenous South Australians that we had 2,583 turn up to vote. So you can't call it a grassroots movement when under 10% of the Indigenous people turned up to vote for the people who are going to be their representatives for voice to Parliament. So, like, when they stand there and they say, this is a grassroots movement, the people of the Indigenous community want this voice to Parliament. Well, a lot of the people that I've spoken to, they don't care about it.
Of you voted.
Yeah, and like a lot of them just don't care about it. A lot of them don't. And that's where I come to think about it, and you get into your conspiracy mind, you start doing a bit more reading. It's like, is this just more control? Like, do they just have now do the government just have another layer of control? They can say, oh, we can't do this because this certain group says no. Do you know what I mean? More layers of control. I mean, I did a reel about this yesterday, and again, we're spitballing, but I love talking about politics. So, the Peter Malinowskis government came out a couple of days ago, and they put a law into place where no one can take any more donations. No political member, no political party, no candidate, which is a big one. No candidate, so you got to remember that, can take any donations from anywhere, which is on face value really, really cool, right? Because you take the money out of politics. There's no more.
How the fuck can you change who's in charge without money behind you?
Yeah,
but red flag straight away.
Yeah, and then that's the thing, right? And then how you get money from the taxpayer dollars in the first place is all your money, if you're a political party, goes off how many votes you got off the last election. So the guys already in charge, they're the ones that are already getting all the money from taxpaying dollars because of the last election. So if you're a new party or a grassroots movement that wants to come up, they've just taken or capped your donations to $5,000 per individual.
So there can be no new movements,
so there can be no new movements coming in. Now, like, that's the thing where, like a Peter Malinowskis government comes in, on face value, that is great. Take the money away because that's the issue in politics, which I agree. But when you take the money away and you pretty much make it impossible for any grassroots movement to come up, so you can only vote Labor and Liberal for the rest of your life, I mean, that doesn't scream democracy to me.
I have a really, really, really mixed opinion on politics.
And sorry, just let me add as well. And also, and this is one of the biggest points that annoys me, Labor made it made it law for no one to give donations, but they exempted the unions. Now, the unions, CFMEU, all these people, they are predominantly left-leaning. So the unions can give political donations pretty much only to the Labor Party, but no one else can. So the unions' money is good.
Which
but
are just fucking money, bikie gangs, essentially.
Yeah, but your money isn't. So when
That's
I read that part, and South Australians are celebrating this law, when you dig a little bit deeper, it's not all what it sees. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm one of those thinkers where, like, I really, 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 really don't think who you vote for makes a fucking single difference. I know the argument is if everyone thinks like that, nothing can change. Blah, blah, blah. I genuinely think no matter who you vote for, even in America, whether you voted for fucking Kamala Harris or Donald Trump, the outcome's going to be very similar.
One's just a little bit more woke than the other. That's it.
Yeah. Politics shouldn't be a popularity contest.
Nah, it
needs to be a collective group of fucking really smart people.
Yeah.
Really objective, smart people.
Politics was lost when they stopped enforcing some type of, because some of the greatest politicians in the world were some of the greatest military leaders in the world. So when politicians became career politicians, that's when politicians lost their sense of who they are and what they should be.
Well, a lot of them just turned to politics for to satisfy some of their devious fucking behaviours as well. Like, I don't know so much in the Australian circles, but of politics and high-end politics, but I imagine a lot of them get into it because they're really fucking devious, evil people.
Yeah, and look, I like those are those conspiracy holes that you sort of go down. So
yeah.
like I just try to stay on face value, because if there is ever any a point
You don't
in
ever
time,
dabble. You dabble in like a good political conspiracy,
well, if there's
like a Clinton family,
Yeah.
conspiracy or Nancy Pelosi.
yeah, but if there's ever a shot at me enacting change in this country, and if I want to form a political party, I just need to stay away from those conversations.
I read a thing yesterday. Nancy Pelosi's net worth just
The
hit
stock trader,
$243 million,
and she's on 170,000 US a year, and
Yeah.
she's been on that for years. You know,
If you think they're not inside trading, you're an idiot. I would.
Yeah, mate. There's a group on X. Yeah, and I love the platform X. It's
Do you?
yeah, it's so much
the
fun.
pits of hell.
It's so much fun. If you can get your algorithm right, it's really, really fun. And there is a page that is called this Nancy Pelosi Stock Trader Follower. And obviously, because it's open market, you can follow her trades.
And he just follows everything.
Yeah. These people are up like 50,000%. And also more, like 120,000% or something.
Never taken a
And
loss.
yeah, every single time she makes a trade, they mirror that trade, and they have just doubled up on it. They are like tens of millions of dollars in the profit.
That's fucking. I guess that's a really smart way to do it, because she's gonna win.
Well, the people that are enacting or writing the rules in the country to benefit certain businesses, and if they can bet on, for, or against those businesses that they're writing the rules for, I'm sorry, that's on a free and open market, which she claims that she works in. She goes, we can invest because it's a free and open market. Well, not if you write the rules, lady. Like, that is not a democracy. I'm sorry.
Is your goal to get into politics?
No.
No?
No. Look, I have a lot of people reach out to me. My inbox is full of people saying I need to get into politics, but I think right now my voice is more important than being on the side.
You can do just as much, like you can on social media now.
Mm.
Do you post on Twitter, X as well?
Yeah, and I
You
post on TikTok as well.
Do you get much traction on X? Because I found it
I have
really.
recently.
You have?
Yeah, I have recently. I've only got maybe 4,000 followers. I didn't start the page too long ago, but I've had a few big accounts with like millions of followers repost my stuff and reshare my stuff. So, you know, it comes on quickly. Instagram's my fastest growing page. TikTok is just slowly growing. I think I got about 15,000 on TikTok or something.
TikTok always fucking banned me.
Yeah, but they've actually got better lately. They used to ban a lot of my stuff. I used to have to go back and challenge it, but lately I can upload anything I want.
Instagram's changing a bit too. Some of my posts get flagged on Instagram now.
Yeah.
Like the dumbest, most like minuscule shit will get and then I'll like scroll on my algorithm and see someone basically die.
It's wild, isn't it?
What?
Yeah. Instagram's become a lot more open market since Trump took over, because obviously he became buddies, or not buddies, but Mark Zuckerberg started talking to the political right. He got right into UFC, which had the influence from Dana White, which obviously enforced him to take off some of the...
Which was I'm pretty sure that was a move from his son.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure... What was Donald Trump's son name? Is it?
Barron.
Barron.
Yeah.
I'm fairly... Because getting in with Dana White and like being exposed to straight white males from fucking 16 to 35, which are the most impressionable creatures in the world, that won him the election, and that podcast with Joe Rogan.
Yeah, and that was sort of Barron Trump did, and Trump has come out and said that Barron was the one
he would have orchestrated that.
But just going back to Mark Zuckerberg, a lot of the rules in Australia have been released. My account used to get heavily, what do they call it, shadow banned, and they would actually tell me all the posts that I've been shadow banned on, and it was literally like maybe a few weeks after Trump got elected, that shadow ban was taken completely off my whole account.
Yeah, you noticed the difference straight away. I just got locked in a fucking jail on TikTok. I was getting like 50 to 100,000 views like pretty regularly on my videos, and then fucking boof. I couldn't hit
Yeah.
over. I could never get over like 230.
Yeah, you
like,
won't
it
anymore.
was just capped me
Yeah.
at like 200 views.
Yeah,
I
you
was
won't
like-
anymore. You won't anymore. If you
Excuse me.
tried again, you'd be
Yeah, I personally focus all my energy on YouTube more than anything.
Yeah.
YouTube's the one I love. Like that's the platform I spend the most time on. So that's the
Yeah.
one I hammer the most. But your numbers on fucking Instagram are phenomenal, eh?
Yeah.
Do you find yourself? You seem like you're a pretty regimented and like pretty like level-headed dude. How easy is it to get fucking lost in like the whore?
Oh, yeah,
The
yeah, big
video?
time. Yeah.
Like the first time it happens.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a few things go like fairly viral, not like millions of virals, but you got to understand as well, my videos are generally minimum 1 minute 30 to 3 minutes long. So a lot of the stuff that do go viral is under that 10-second time.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're the ones that get the views. But for some of my videos, they can get, 600, 700,000 views or 800,000 views. But they go for 3 minutes long. So that's the difference.
It's so funny that that's like too long for people.
It is. It is.
It is.
It is, but I mean I think that's where the next political landscape comes within Australia, is because people and their attention spans.
Short form politics.
Literally, like, and I think my page is proving that, is if you can come out in a 3 minute to
Make it
90 second,
digestible.
yep, and just be like, these are the facts and these are it, and start probing people like that. I'm telling you, you can enact change.
Do you listen to Friendly Geordies?
Nah,
Have you ever seen him?
nah.
He's a massive, massive, massive YouTuber from Australia. He's a young bloke. He's a comedian, and he's a political commentator.
Is he?
He's fucking hilarious.
Is he good? Which
He's
side?
very good. He's
What side does he sit on? Is he a more conservative or progressive? Like left or
I
right?
think he's really dead center and objective.
Good, because that's how you have to be.
Because he shits on both.
Yeah.
I can't tell you. Like you'd be way more inclined to make an opinion on that than me.
Mm.
You would love his content.
Yeah.
He puts his comedic aspect on it and kind of rags on fucking like current events in the political world. But he's a fantastic creator.
Yeah.
His house got firebombed a heap in Victoria because he was like investigating the CFMEU or.
Yes, that's where you got to be careful.
But he was like doing deep dives into someone. It was someone, and his house actually it was all over the news. His house got burnt down.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
I mean, Jesus, stay away from the CM, so stay away from the unions.
I'm not hell well. I have a mate well, not a mate. I went to school with a dude that's pretty high up in a union now, and I just don't understand him. I just don't understand how it works. I know it's like internally a bit dodgy, but that's like I don't know what they're there for and why they're there.
Yeah, well, they're there to stand for the people, to give rights back to workers, and to ensure that big employers can't bully the little guy.
Isn't that what the government's for?
Well, not necessarily, especially because the government's only caring about the government, but in bigger workforces, especially in trade-based workforces. I mean, look, the unions definitely have a place. I think, for getting work health and safety standards up, for ensuring workers' rights are met, for not overworking people. But then you also have the other aspect of, for example, a lot of people might, from union backgrounds, are probably going to hate me for saying this, but what was the Holden factory down at Elizabeth? Like line workers there, like line workers and forklift drivers back 4 or 5, maybe 10 years ago before it shut, we're getting $100,000, $110,000 working on a line, pushing a button. It's like, you wonder why the manufacturing went from Australia-based
China
to China, because the unions are pushing up so many wages so high that that big businesses just go, well, China's offering practically free slave labor over there, so we're going to go over there. And I think that's like the counterintuitive part of unions. They can be absolutely fantastic for baseline workers, but when they push the needle too hard, and when simple people are just getting, for driving a forklift, they're getting 120 grand a year, then that's when you think to yourself, maybe because the fallout of this is if people just go to China, like
Wages
businesses go to China.
Fucking wild in Australia. Like, if you go to a restaurant on a Sunday, that waitress is getting paid $72 an hour.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
And then they wonder why houses are fucking.
Yeah, and look, I don't. Australia has the lowest wage growth in the world, in the developed world. Which
Really?
is, yeah. So we have the lowest wage growth in the developed world. But you know, the thing with you know, Anthony Albanese came out there, and I don't have the answer to this. Just letting everyone know, like I'm just commentating from it. But Anthony Albanese came out the other day and gave like 3% pay rise to like baseline workers. For example, I was talking to a friend about this that owns a cafe. He goes, Sam, I now have to pay my 6 people in my cafe an extra $3 an hour. He goes, mate, that coffee now is going to cost everyone an extra $1. So like, it doesn't matter how it raises up in one way. It just comes back to the consumer, us, me and you. And then what does that do? That rises inflation and everything goes up again. So I don't know the answer to that. I think I do know, in firstly getting our government to be profitable. But yeah, the other parts to it, like, you just got to realise with everything that goes through the government, there's always you know, Newton's law, every action has a reaction, and it always goes back on some way. You know, it's with that new super tax that they're wanting to do as well. You know, a lot of people don't think that it will affect them with that $3 million threshold. That $3 million threshold, that isn't indexed to inflation. So like, people like you and me, in 30 years, like $3 million might not be $3 million. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, I'm looking at houses now, and I'm looking at like the $1 million plus, which it sounds like a lot, but you get fuck all for $1 million.
Yeah, you don't get much. And then if you have people that have their self-funded or self-managed supers, for example, right, I'll tell you how this $3 million tax is going to come back and bite consumers, me and you, on the ass. So I was talking to a different coffee shop the other day. That like one of the guys noticed me that was making the coffee, and he asked his manager, "Hey, can I have a 10 minute break?" Yep, no worries. Came out and spoke to me. He said, "Hey, can I have a conversation with you about your page? I love it. I just want to grab your thoughts on some stuff." And we started talking about the super tax coming in, that $3 million super tax. And I was talking to this guy about it. He goes, "Yeah, I don't know what to do." I'm like, "Well, you know, like, there's not much you can do, right? The thing that you can do is just," I gave him some positive thing of concentrate on yourself, make sure you save, make sure you do this. But he gave me a great point, which I didn't even realize. He goes, "Yeah, like, the guys here that own or that pay rent to the leaseholder, he's putting up his rent because his self-funded super, that land is in that self-funded super." Right. So, so he goes, "Okay, guys, well, now I'm getting an extra tax. I'm going to raise my rent because of that extra tax.
Everyone.
And then guess what? That rent from that extra tax goes back onto your coffee."
Yeah.
So it's like, I understand what the government is doing in raising taxes, but you got to understand, whenever the government raises a tax, practically fucking anywhere, it goes back on to the consumer. Why? Because people need to pay more rent. They need to pay more rent into their land, to their leaseholders.
They keep rising the price of the fucking coffee.
Yeah, you know, and like, coffee's a very baseline level, but that's how it's just so easy to, you know, explain that to people, because the people love buying coffee. But you know what I mean? Like,
well, just for like a reference, at our shop that we have in my family, for one box of tomatoes now, it costs $85. For a 10 kilo box of tomatoes, it costs $85.
What was that? Well, can I ask, what was it costing pre-COVID? Do you know?
Maybe like 32.
There you go.
Maybe $32. For one cabbage, it's about $6. And then people come in and they complain about prices, but they don't fucking complain to X convenience when they're paying $2 fucking 10 for petrol, or $1.80 for a diesel, a byproduct of petrol. But they don't complain to them, but they go to a little fucking shop owner, and they'll complain about the price of a salad.
Yeah, and like, everyone's got to make ends meet, right?
Go yell at fucking Woolies. Go yell at them.
Yeah, the price gouging in Woolies and Coles is a serious issue in this country.
It's fucked.
You know, I was talking to JP Drake the other day.
Seen.
Yeah, fantastic bloke, and he obviously owns Drake's Food Marks. And people complain to him about, you know, their prices being a little bit higher, but it's like, mate, like, we are competing against two, like, industry, I don't know
conglomerates.
The word. Just like dominators.
They've monopolised the whole industry of grossing in Australia.
Yep, and they've dominated it, and the government has just let them have unchecked profits.
It's very rare I go shopping like my missus will go shopping
Yeah.
all the time, and I just don't. I fucking hate shopping. And every now and then I'll go out with her. Like we went out, I think early this week. I went with her shopping, and I like had to spare like $200 in my drawer, and I just gave it to her. I go, oh, she's like, what's this gonna fucking do?
Yeah.
And I was like, what do you mean?
That's nothing.
That's fucking groceries for fucking 2 weeks there. And she's like, nah. So we went shopping, and we got just snacks, like just shit to have in the cupboard, and fucking $180 here. That's with no protein. And then you go buy your protein, and then it's fucking another $150. It's like, fuck, how do people with like 2 kids on minimum wage renting fucking eat?
Yeah.
They have to eat shit because it's expensive to eat well now.
Yeah, and you know the biggest thing that I try and say to people as well is shop the least amount you can at Woolworths and Coles. Like if you've got a local butcher, go to your local butcher.
Go to the butcher. Go to your local fruit and veg shop.
Fruit and veg. I mean, like COVID was a turning point for me. I used to get everything pre-COVID. I used to get everything from Woolworths and Coles. Now I rarely go into Woolworths and Coles. Maybe only for like Greek yogurt or some
just little bits and bobs.
Little bits and pieces that I need. Everything else is just base load meat and fruit and veg.
Well, I'll send you home with a heap of fucking deer today. I got a heap of deer sausages in the freezer as well. I'll give you.
Nice. I'm looking forward to it.
Have you ever tried it?
Nah, never tried deer. I'm assuming that would be like they're obviously red meat based, so that would be fantastic for you.
Yeah, it's so good for you.
Pretty lean.
It's super lean.
Yeah, I'm a massive kangaroo eater.
Oh, I'm pretty sure the deer back straps are probably leaner.
Yeah.
But it's fucking so good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, well, because I'm not right now, but when I'm back into full sort of training, I've been getting a little bit lazy lately, but when I'm back into full training, I'm probably 90% carnivore diet. And,
you feel good?
Yeah, fantastic. I sleep amazingly. My mind feels very unclear. Like not foggy.
Yeah, it's good clarity.
So my mind is very clear. And
is that so? We're like leading up to that. For people who don't know, you did 1,042 k's.
Yeah.
From Melbourne to Adelaide.
Yeah, Melbourne to Adelaide. Yep.
In 22 days, 28,
23.
23.
Yep.
It's fucking. No, that's like 52 k's a day, 48.
Yeah, it worked out to be about 45. 45 k's a day.
Is it like the start, middle, or the end hardest?
Oh, look, the first 3 days, I was feeling a bit under the weather the first few days. But we just ran through and the body adapted. But the first few days weren't too bad getting out of Melbourne and getting close to. We got to Lorne within the first 3 days. So we ran from Melbourne to Torquay, or Melbourne to Geelong, Torquay to Lorne. That first day we got about 65k in, and then next day was 50 something, and next day was 50. But after day 3, that's where the hurt settles in.
Is that the biggest run you've done?
Yeah. In terms of
like total kilometers, but per day, like have you run further than say like 50k in a day before?
Yeah, I've done 115k races before.
What was your body like in comparison to that, to the long 1,000 over 23 days? Because that extra 50 k's is massive on your body.
Oh, look, the body just adapts.
Yeah.
When I first got into running, I started doing 50k events, and I remember how much I couldn't walk after that, and then just how the body is so well adapted over the years of me running heaps that after my first day where I knocked off 57 or 60 or something like that, the next morning I just got up and I didn't really feel like I had run the day before. The body adapts over time. I mean, days 3 to day 9, that was when the pain set in.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they do these events, they quit in those days. And as a team, it was me, my mum, and my 30-week pregnant wife, sort of living out of a Winnebago, driving around the Great Ocean Road from Adelaide to Melbourne. We just weren't prepared at some of the issues that came up. My Achilles blew up early. My shins were going. And this is stuff that can stop you from running. But there are devices out there that you can use. Like you can get heel arches and put them in your heels to lift weight off the Achilles, which shorten the Achilles, which ensures they don't work as much, so they're easier to run. But obviously with every action, there's a reaction. So if you're running with your heels elevated, your shins blow up more. And yeah, it was from that lawn all the way through to Apollo Bay and then to Warrnambool. That was the tough part. You go past the 12 Apostles there. Like the bush and scrubbery is like 2 foot tall there because it's so windy. So nothing can actually grow over 4 foot, because if it does, it'll just get blown down. And we had headwinds a lot of the way. It was pissing down with rain for a lot of that time. And yeah, those days were hell. And then I had a day on the 9th where we got about 15k in, and I felt like someone had hit me in the shin with a hammer. And
like shin splints and
yeah, but it was just like, yeah, it felt like someone hit me with a baseball bat in there, and I'm like, oh, that's not right. And I couldn't walk, and I couldn't move my right ankle up and down. And what had happened, I'd just put so much damage or put so much pressure on the tendon that ran. It's called the tib tendon. There's obviously another thing, but it's a tendon that runs up the front of your foot over your shin and then connects to your knee. And yeah, that tendon completely stopped working. So when I tried to move my foot from my ankle up and down, it just wouldn't work. So what I had to do is I had to get this this strap that went around my shin, and then you hooked it around your shoelaces, and there's a bit of elastic that hooked into the shoelaces, and instead of you using that flexion your foot, that device did it for you.
Jesus Christ, we're not built the same, mate. Do you know, I don't know how to phrase this without sounding probably like a bit insensitive or rude. Do you do this shit to like escape some form of like fucking PTSD you have from the army or something?
I mean, I've spoken about this a lot, especially on my podcast a lot as well.
Yeah, I don't know about your like army career or something, but
yeah, we can delve into that.
A lot of people that fucking dabble in like really extreme physical like activities are like doing it for some form of like mental clarity. Yeah,
there's a lot of if you see some of the best ultra runners in the world, they're actually ex-drug addicts and shit like that. That are people that have found these ultra events. To be honest, mate, I just I mean, I've spoken about it a bit. I find a lot of clarity in running, especially running like long distance events. I don't run with music as well.
You fucking raw dog it. I heard that on the JP Drake podcast. I was like, that was the craziest thing I've ever fucking heard. Just raw dog it.
Yeah.
No music or anything. That is the darkest thing in the world.
But that's, mate, you find a lot out about yourself. I mean, I've never run with music because I think part of the running, especially running.
Do you get into like that trance, kind of like almost like not a flow state, but like just...
Yeah, sort of. Yeah,
autopilot.
Yeah, you get into an autopilot, but also get into a
meditative kind of state.
Yeah, like a meditative state where, they're like nothing really matters around the world. You just got a job to do, and the hardest thing about running, and I've said this a whole bunch of times, it doesn't matter for 5k or 10k's or whatever, but if you want to run any sort of distance, the hard part about that running is like being in your own head. So if you can take, and because everything right after if you just start off running, anything after 20k is just quite tough on your legs, and your knees start to ache and your ankles start to ache and your back gets sore. But with music, you can take away that pain because you take away the thought of what's happening on your body. If you don't have that music, you got to live with inside yourself, and you got to deal with the pain, which is to me, that's like one of the most important parts of long distance running, is to be able to be in your own thoughts and mind when you're in that hellhole. And that's where you're like, well, if I use music here, I could be potentially selling myself short, and I could be potentially selling my what I can learn from myself here in this situation as well. If I put music on, it just makes it a bit easier, doesn't it?
The 2 episodes I've done, I've lost a few episodes due to technical difficulties in my earlier days. Two of the episodes I've lost have been with fucking endurance athletes.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, one of them, he's fucking bit out there. He's from Adelaide. He's from eastern suburbs Adelaide. You know, Durian rider?
Nah.
Harley?
Nah.
He's fucking strange dude. He's older, but he's a cyclist and runner, really good. And he lives off fruit and refined sugar.
There you go.
That's his whole diet, and like he's gotten fucking a lot of followers too.
Yeah.
But he lives a vegan lifestyle, but he loves he like is a big advocate of refined sugar.
Yeah.
Which is just fucking strange.
Yeah,
But it works for him.
Yeah, not a way that I would live. I mean, I'm more of a carnivore type meat eater.
He's the complete opposite to he eats fucking rice with just spoonfuls of sugar on it. Just white sugar.
I mean, whatever works for you.
He's jacked all year round. He's probably on like heaps of fucking PEDs as well.
Yeah,
But yeah. There's like you do your runs, but then above you there's like those outliers of people that are just fucking nutcases, like those dudes that do the Moab 500s.
Yeah.
And like those and the Australian bloke who just got a Netflix doco on him. The kid.
Yeah. I know his Ned Brockman.
Ned Brockman.
Yeah.
Like he's a fucking freak.
Yeah. So he ran across. So he's done a few events. He ran across Australia, and just to put this in perspective for everyone out there, I ran from Melbourne to Adelaide along the Great Ocean Road. So I was a little bit longer. The normal route is from Melbourne to Adelaide. It's like 700 k's, but mine was over 1,042 k's, and I averaged 45 k's a day, and it was pretty brutal, as most people would have seen. Ned Brockman ran from Perth to Sydney, and he averaged 80 something k's a day, like double the load that I was doing. So there's runners like me that are,
and there's
like
outliers like
and
that.
And then there's Ned, and then there's like the Neds of the world, and they are just like so far above like myself that it's just like there's runners and then there's runners. So like I would love to do an event like that from Perth to Adelaide. I actually did think that I sold my potential way too short on my run.
Did you feel like you had more in you?
Yeah, heaps. Yeah. My best week of running, my best numbers were on the last week of the run. So, from Robe to Adelaide, that's when I hit my best numbers.
Really?
Yeah. My best running day was my second to last running day.
Is it just because you just were like, fuck it, this hurts, let's just do it?
Nah. All the pain went away. Nothing really. Like getting started in the morning, it didn't hurt anymore. From about day 14 or 15, it wasn't hard to get going in the morning. And when I mean get going in the morning to start running, I'd be in mass pain for about 500 meters, and it would all go away. But the hard part became, from like day 3, you're averaging anywhere on a good night 2 to 4 hours, on a bad night 1 to 2 hours, and that just compounds over time. So when you get to day 20, 19, and you're running off like 60 hours of sleep in the past 20 days, that's when you start to really struggle. So it would have been interesting to see how far I could have pushed my body. I would have loved to do a longer event, but mate, the finish line was there, and I had to finish the event. There's still a big part of me, and a lot of people, sometimes might call me arrogant about this, but there's a part of me where I feel like I left a big chunk of my potential out there, and I'm still a little bit angry about that.
Were you always like this, or did the army kind of make you like this? Like, were you always pretty regimented and stuff as a person?
I mean, you'd have to ask my mum or my dad.
Because you said you went to the army when you were 18?
18, yeah.
Until...
mate, I was in there till about 23. It's 24.
Probably like such an important... And if you like have a good run in the army and it doesn't really fuck you up mentally, going into the army at 18 is probably a lot better than going out and fucking doing a boatload of experimental drug. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like a really good... If you can teach yourself that regiment and that...
Especially in today's society where drug use is becoming more rampant in younger kids, the younger generation. Like, I mean,
hardcore drugs.
Yeah, mate, when I was growing up, there might have been a couple of kids that were like popping pills here and there, but like there's kids now that are, fucking 17 and
doing meth.
Yeah, and they're like splitting bags of coke and shit like that. And it's like, mate, as a society, it's just, like you take a step back and, the older generation always goes, oh, this generation of kids are cooked, but it's like this generation of kids coming through, they've been addicted to social media. Their online presence is huge.
They're desensitized to everything.
Yeah.
Like, do you know? I remember when the internet, because I was my generation, my specific age group is very unique.
How old are you?
I'm 31.
31. Yeah.
It's really unique because I went all through school until like year 7 without a computer. There was no, and then we were the test rats for computers.
Yeah.
So we like, I remember seeing on the internet for the first time a video of someone's fucking head getting cut off. Like back in the day when like there was all these like 4chans and your mates would send you videos on like MSN and stuff. And I remember
MSN. I remember that.
I remember seeing a video. It looked like some Taliban shit or some sort of fucking Middle Eastern country. This bloke getting held down, buff head off, and I was like fucking 13, and I was like, what the fuck? I was like, Jesus, that's so confronting.
Yeah.
But like kids just see that all on Twitter or X, you can see some my algorithm's fucked.
Yeah, your algorithm. See, my
Mine
algorithm's
needs
just
to be,
political stuff.
I need someone to come in and fix it because like you watch one video and it just fucking destroys you. I can't go on there. It's just fucking terrible.
That's where the algorithms come into it. But
It's just all Middle Eastern fucking crimes.
yeah,
It's terrible.
Yeah, but it's and this is this new generation coming through. I mean, to talk about your point before with computers coming in. When I was in year 10, that's when the first iPhone came out, and it was like, oh, they're bringing out an iPhone, and then they're bringing out an iPod, and they're making it one together,
Yeah.
and everyone's like, how much is this thing? It's $800, and back then, $800 was like, rent for like fucking 3 months for some people, it was such a far-fetched thing for us to have. I didn't get an iPhone until, halfway through the military. That's when I had my first iPhone. I actually had a flip phone for ages, so. Yeah, my the evolution of technology and a few other things happening in the background is definitely changing our kids. And to go onto the topic about kids as well, because I really love talking about the topic of kids and the issues happening at the moment. And also as well,
Are you terrified? Is this your first child?
Yeah.
Are you like in the back of your head? Are you like, fuck? I have to bring this kid up through this this bloody world now.
Yeah, yes and no.
If you have,
I think to myself. Sorry.
No, you're right.
I think to myself as well. Like if I can raise my kids
To be proper.
Yeah, but to have like any bit of go about them, they will destroy not destroy the world, but they will be able to absolutely dominate whatever field they go in. Because the kids that I want to bring up there, I want them to be, mentally in a really strong place. I want them to be, physically to have a presence in training and staying fit. I want their diets to be, not getting all this sugar into them. Like there is the average human in the 1900s consume more sugar in their lifetime than the average 8-year-old has done today.
Fuck.
Yeah.
And do you know what though?
It's like cereals and all this sort of stuff.
A lot of it's not to like parents being like bad parents. It's because no one reads fucking labels.
Yeah, and
it's like, do you know how much in condiments, like, do you know how bad condiments are for you? Like shit you'd use every day. Like I didn't realize how like tomato sauce. Just look at the fucking back of it. Every squeeze, you might as well just eat 2 tablespoons of sugar.
Yeah, 100%.
But it's those little things that get you.
Yeah, people don't realise as well. And
it's
like
just
the
not educated on it.
The cereal industry, cornflakes, Cocoa Pops, all this stuff. Like you look at the sugar rating on it, it's huge. So yeah, look, I
think diets are getting better.
Yeah, they are. People are getting more aware.
I actually think the youth now is a lot more health conscious than my generation was.
Yeah, that's because of social media.
It's because of like social media influencers.
Yeah, and like 6-packs and stuff like
that. But that also leads to like really, really early steroid abuse.
Yeah, and that's another thing.
You see some 19-year-olds walking around looking like 35-year-old men. Yeah,
it's and this is this world that's coming in now. I seen a great photo the other day, and this probably isn't a good example, but it's a good example of phone use. In 2010, there was a music festival, Stereosonic or something like that.
Oh yeah,
and it was might have been 2011. It was Avicii playing Levels.
It was 2011.
Yeah, for the first time in Australia, he was playing Levels.
Yeah,
and the crowd.
I was there.
Yeah, well, the crowd was going nuts, and there was not one single phone.
I was front row center for that. I was front row center for that.
But there was not one single phone in sight. No one had their phones out recording it.
We had the phones. We just didn't like. My first thought, even now, when I go to, if say I went to a concert, if this is like my favorite song playing, my first thing isn't to like I just watch it. It's like so, but that's now people are watching their favorite song through the phone that they paid for the concert to go to. It's just weird, but it's just I have to monitor my phone usage.
Yeah, and that's something we all, like, mate,
I'm so bad on if I get stuck in a fucking hole on it, because my algorithm on
the scroll hole is real.
My algorithm on Instagram and YouTube is just like fucking chef's kiss. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Like it's just so tailored to my specific niches and my humor. And I will be in the toilet and you just get stuck.
You do. Yeah, you do. I like a big one of mine is scrolling before bed. Like you lie down in there and then all of a sudden it's like, I was supposed to be in bed an hour ago sleeping, and you're like, I've been on this phone for an hour and a half. Obviously kids will change that for me, but I need to limit my time on the phone. And that's, I probably don't do it enough. But one thing that I've done lately with my phone is because, mate, if I upload something on Instagram, within 20 minutes there'll be something like 1,000 likes and 100 comments and 1,000 reshares on it. And I'll have like 30 to 40 or 50 message requests in there, and they're hard to go through. So now I actually just I've filtered it to people that I follow where I can see their notifications.
I'm wondering how you do that.
Yeah. So there's a little thing at like the creators top.
Mine's overwhelming. I can't fucking imagine what I get so overwhelmed when a video of mine does like 50 or 100,000 views.
Yeah.
And it's just people just fucking message you and message it. And I really feel like I have to message every single person back.
Yeah.
And that's what fucking like just keeps me on my phone.
Yeah, I don't message. I mean, sometimes I do. I mean, I messaged someone back yesterday that
I reply to every comment.
I don't. Or like I wouldn't have time. If I replied to every comment. I do reply to some comments. There are a couple comments out there. I mean, a guy made a good point yesterday with one of the reels that I put up about what we were talking before about the Peter Malinowskis and that new law that he brought in. He brought up a good point, and I wrote back to him and said, and he did it in a positive way as well. Like, because I have a lot of people come after me on there. So,
you'd cop some fucking interesting.
Yeah.
And you should actually do a video where you just read some of your favorite inboxes.
You wouldn't want to hear them.
It'd be funny.
Yeah. But I commented back yesterday, and I literally just wrote, "Thank you very much for your thought on this. I appreciate the positive message back, and it's good for my points to be challenged in the comment section as well, because if everyone just came on and agreed with it, we don't live in a democracy." So I said, thank you very much for that, and he was really, really happy with that. I responded to him, but there are obviously the ones that come out there and just like to come after me. But I mean, and a lot of people sometimes when they get to my I don't want to sound like a wanker, which I just did then. So when some people get to a level on social media where they have a bunch of followers, they might disable comments. I am so against disabling comments, because I think that we live in a world where free speech
some people fucking what do? They don't disable them. They restrict them
to like people that only follow you,
or people that
only follow, or something.
People that only say good shit.
Yeah,
like they will they'll get like AI to remove fucking negative comments.
Yeah,
and stuff.
Because I've had people be like, "Hey, why don't you just restrict comments, or like why don't you like remove the bad comments?" I'm like, well, because if I put something up online, and the research that I've done, like I need someone to come back and
someone might say a good point
and challenge me on that. And yesterday there was a guy that did, and I said, "That's a good point. Thank you." I mean, I actually didn't think of that when I was putting the reel together. Like, well done. So, mate, I'm a big one for free speech. I think that whenever I do post online with anything, I can never restrict my comments. Purely for the fact of that, like if someone wants to call me out and say that, hey, you're wrong on this, then please do so. Like if you're listening to it and you disagree with me, then please write it in the comments. Please tell me why. If I don't get to it because of some reason, maybe I get 1,000 comments a day on stuff across the board, and I can't get to it. But if there's ones that I do see, I do try and reply to them.
So when you were 18, you went to the army.
Yeah.
How long between joining the army to getting deployed?
Mate, I was joined straight out of 18. and I reckon I had about 2.5 years, and then I got deployed overseas.
Is that normal? Or is that fairly early? Is deployment a choice?
Yeah.
I was going to say, because I know some people, people that have been in the army for like a fair long amount of time, but they've never actually done deployment.
Yeah, deployment's a choice, but it's also a privilege. It's probably one of the greatest privileges you can get being in a.
Is that like you've reached the next echelon of soldier kind of thing?
Yeah, well, mate, I just put it like this. Imagine if you're. I see that you love UFC fighting and stuff like that. Imagine if you're a fighter, right, and you train up forever, and no one ever gives you a shot to fight in the octagon. That's what, to me, that's what.
Or you're on a foot, or you get in the AFL and you're only on the bench.
Yep. Yeah. So you train for something all year and you never actually, get to go do it. That's what I sort of explain. The same as being in the military but not going overseas to Afghanistan and live rounds and that sort of thing. So, mate, it was to me it was a massive privilege. Everyone that was over there was actually lucky to be there because when your unit goes overseas, they only get the best half of blokes, and then the other half stay in reserve at home. So, they only get the you have to be like a decent soldier to actually get on and get overseas. So, mate, it was like I said, it was a privilege. It was an honour, and it was something that I wanted to do for years and years. So,
what's the feeling like when you finally touch down on the land? Is it like, are you like, oh fuck?
Yeah, I mean, mate, it's like if you've ever been to Middle Eastern countries before, it's a definite shock. Especially Afghanistan. Like,
I've never been in past Cyprus, so I've never been over to the Middle East.
Yeah, so like if you go to, Iran's got some nice big cities and that, but Kabul, I didn't get to Kabul. We were down in Kabul was in like the northeastern suburb of northeastern part of Afghanistan, which is their capital. But where we were operating was more of like a central part of Afghanistan in Uruzgan province in Tarin-Kowt, and you had some pretty bad places around there like Helmand and places like that. Like I think 60% of Afghanistan's heroin comes out of Helmand, and like Afghanistan in a whole in terms of the heroin trade, they're like 40, 50, 60% of the world trade or something. So a lot of that part comes out of a place that we were close to. But look, sort of getting down, mate, it's like a little mud hut world. Probably the first shock is that there's no women around. Obviously they're covered from head to toe. That's in their law. That's their Sharia law. It's mostly under Taliban control now. But obviously women over there are not treated like they are in Australia. Covered head to toe. They have like a little eye socket out, and you can't even see their eyes because it's.
You see that shit in Sydney everywhere.
There you go. So
you see it everywhere in Sydney. When I used to live in Sydney, it was the first time I seen
Western Sydney.
It was in Western. Yeah. I didn't live in Western Sydney, but when I went out into Western Sydney, that was the first time. Like, I have heaps of Muslim friends, and I have heaps of I've got Muslim family members now that have converted to Islam and stuff, but that was the first time I seen like the full, and it's fucking hell confronting. I don't know why. It's like a cultural thing, whatever. It's not my business. That's not my business at all. But it is confronting because it's like, what the fuck's under there? I want to. You can't see anything. Yeah. So it's
and that's
makes you uneasy.
Yeah, and that's one of the tough things we had over there because obviously, they didn't really fight a conventional war. The Taliban, it was more like guerrilla tactics. So. One of the US patrols when we were out there, they had a 13-year-old suicide bomber blow himself up. And the kid was, dressed from head to toe, so you actually couldn't see the explosives on his chest. They can obviously use that as a tool for their warfare to, get around and stuff like that. Mate, but Afghanistan, like on the whole, I mean, it is such a picturesque, beautiful postcard type country.
Mountainous, eh?
Yeah, with snow-capped mountains. They have these things called the green belts where there will just be like a river flowing through the middle of a valley, and then either side of that river for 100 meters is just like forest, and then it just turns into like.
So it's not just desolate land.
No. And then it can turn into forest because obviously the ecosystems rely on those rivers coming through. And their aqueduct systems are like phenomenal. Sometimes you think to yourself, you're like, how did you get water transported from here to there? And it's like, sometimes you look at it and you're like, that water stream, I swear, is going uphill. and they've somehow got water up there. So, you know, like over thousands and thousands of years, Alexander the Great came all the way through Afghanistan and, you know, took it over. One of the hardest areas that he wrote in some of his scrolls, and which now turn into obviously YouTube videos, which I listen to. Afghanistan was some of the hardest areas for him to control. There were so many uprisings in that area, and for thousands of years, the Afghan people, which is predominantly Pashtun type people, they are just their like will and survival is like phenomenal, you know, because they've obviously been through Alexander the Great. Geez, Genghis Khan, the Russians went there, the Americans went there, and they've still just prevailed as people. Yeah, not everyone in Afghanistan is bad, but you do feel sorry for people living under that type of rule. Now, I know, like, you have family members that are
Sharia Muslims are different.
Yeah, they are.
Sharia Muslims are different.
Yeah.
To fucking, it's a different. That's they're a different belief system, I think.
Yeah, so like if you live under Taliban rule, like they don't allow little girls to go to school.
I actually watch I watched a food YouTube. I watch a food YouTuber on YouTube, and he travels to like really fucking intense places to eat. And he went to Afghanistan this week. He posted his video in Afghanistan, and he went to a section where it's under Taliban law, so Sharia law. Sharia law.
Yep.
And he wasn't allowed to. They welcomed him to film. He had to talk to the government and stuff. And he's like, yeah. Just wasn't allowed to film any women, even in the background. They were not allowed to be in the film, and he wasn't allowed to talk to them.
Yeah.
Wasn't allowed to even fucking acknowledge that they were there.
Yeah.
That was like the rule.
Yeah, and this is, and like, you know, again, I don't want to talk down on religions, but this is what I seen in Afghanistan. I remember, like, you would go over there and would have Hearts and Minds little pouches, and that would be lollies, chocolates, a soccer ball. And I remember giving one out to a little girl one time. Might have been in an area that was a bit more relaxed, so she didn't really have the full, just like her face showing. I could see it was a little girl. Handed it to her. A little boy ran up, smacked her in the face, dropped her, picked up the chocolate and started eating it and walked off.
Little motherfucker.
Yeah, and you're just like, hey,
oh, you little.
I'd love to just grab him by the throat of the neck. But you know, that's the world that they grow up in, where, you know, men are just so much higher than women. There's no women allowed in government. Women aren't allowed to be out and about at all without their man. So, mate, it's I find it very, very hard to see when I see, you know, certain people protesting for regimes overseas that completely subject women and children to that type of world and to that type of living. And I sometimes think to myself, do these people like have they ever been to that country, or like, are they just flying a flag?
No.
Or like, are they just flying a flag because
They wouldn't even be able to point it out on a fucking map.
Yeah, and I think to myself, are they just flying a flag because this week their rainbow flag didn't have any media attention, so they're just flying some other flag that they want to protest against?
Such a funny video on Instagram I saw when Israel started fucking hammering Palestine. This lady in America, I believe she was like an African American lady. She was, you could just tell in her voice how woke she was. She went up to this fucking Greek restaurant and ripped the flag off of...
But it was Greek flags, and she thought it was Israeli flags.
She thought it was a fucking Israeli flag. She's gone up to this Greek restaurant recording herself thinking it's really fucking... She's doing real justice to society. She ripped all of the flags off the front and screaming at the owner, and the owner's like, this is a Greek flag. Yeah. The fucking... She's like, what? Really?
She's had no idea,
She's just damaged all of his property.
Yeah.
It's like, what the fuck? Did you get fairly lucky in the sense in when you did your deployment? Were you put in like precarious situations, or situations you were like, oh fuck, this might turn out really bad, or was yours pretty smooth?
Whenever you go outside the wire there, you obviously expose yourself to, and when I mean outside the wire,
there's like safe zones.
Yeah, so like you obviously had your camp, and most of the people, not most of the people, but majority of the people that deployed to Afghanistan, they're obviously support elements, so a lot of them will just stay inside the wire, and they won't be subjected to going outside the wire. And then when I mean outside the wire, you're going outside in the Afghan community every day. That's what we were doing, obviously to gather intel and to check up on certain locations, or to just be a presence in an area that we haven't been to for a while. So anytime you go outside the wire, there's obviously IED threats, there's the shoot threat, there's the suicide bomber threat, and then there's the green on blue insider threat, which I'll talk about in a few minutes. But yeah, any sort of time that we sort of went out there, that you always got that risk, and that happens for 6 months in a row. Like, you don't get too many days off. We used to have every few weeks we'd get a couple of days lay day, that sort of thing, and then sometimes we would go out for 2 weeks and live amongst the locals in areas, and you'd be sleeping out in the middle of the Afghan desert with no walls around you, nothing around you, and you trying to sleep at night, and there's gunshots going off and stuff like that, and stuff like that. So there's a lot of those information. A lot of those incidents happen overseas. Probably the biggest one that I talk about most is the 29th of August, where we lost 3 Australian soldiers that night in my unit. We actually lost 5 Australian soldiers that night, but 2 of them were from a different unit in a chopper crash that died, and then we had 3 from my unit that died, and that was a green on blue situation where, and for the people listening, I need to break this down into non-army lingo. So green on blue is imagine the Australian soldiers being green. This is how just the army portrays it. So imagine the Australian soldiers being green, and our partner force, the Afghan National Army, who we were over there to train, they were the blue. So one of those turned around and shot us. Now, the Taliban obviously got really, really good at trying to fuck with us. So what they did is they used to implant people into the Afghan National Army, knowing that they're a Taliban infiltrator, and they'd just say to them, just hang low with this unit for 2 or 3 weeks. When you get your opportunity, whack a few dudes and jump the fence and get out of there. And that's what this guy did. 29th of August, it was at Patrol Base Wahab. And I had a few close friends there that night. I was back at Tarin Kowt, which is the main base. So when that happened at about 10 o'clock at night, the dude walked up with his AK-47, emptied the clip of 30 rounds onto him. 7.62 at that closer range. Obviously, a few dudes got hit in some places where you're like instantly sort of battling to stay alive. Point to note was that guy that emptied the clip on him, he actually tried to get a machine gun off one of the other Afghan National Army guys that we were training. So he tried to get a machine gun, which had a belt feed on it of about 100 to 200 rounds. So it could have been much worse. There probably should have been 15 to 20 Australian soldiers die that night, but it was lucky that the other Afghan National Army soldier said, no, I'm not giving you my machine gun. So he just went up with his own AK-47. So if he did get that, it would have been worse. But mate, he emptied that clip on, jumped the fence, got away. And I just remember that night, from my point of view, is we were actually getting ready to go to bed. We had orders to go out the next day. So we had, we sat down and my team leader gave us orders. Obviously, we got woken up, and a few of the boys were obviously still up. A couple were at the gym because they were, night junkies and stuff like that. So at the gym, a couple of guys come out for dinner, but I was just a young kid, mate. So I was prioritise sleep when you're sort of younger and that sort of thing. I had a movie on in bed, I reckon, on my laptop, and we got a knock on the door, come out, and then they said, we've had this incident. There's a couple of Cat Charlies, a couple of Cat Bravos, and a couple of Cat Alphas, no signs of life. And in the military, when they say category levels, it's like no one can pronounce someone dead until the doctors said they're dead. So like a Cat Charlie is like you might fall over and sprain your wrist, or slightly break an arm.
And Cat A would be like they have a bullet in their head.
Yeah. So, or you got a couple of Cat A's, and I'll explain them to you. Then your Cat Bravo is like, you might have got shot, but it's a flesh wound, and they've already patched it up. The guy's walking around, he needs medical attention, but not right now. And your Cat Alpha is, you have 2 Cat Alphas. You have a Cat Alpha, and then you have a Cat Alpha, no signs of life. So, for example, on our trip, we had a guy named Curtis McGrath. I wasn't there for this, but it's a cool story. well, it's not a cool story, but it's a cool story at the end of it. He stepped on an IED one day, got both his legs blown off. And he's actually now, the cool story of it now is that he has rode in he's like a 4-time Olympian. Australian Olympian. And he's dominated the world of paracanoeing for like the past 10 years.
Wow.
And he's a dominant force. And as they were loading him onto the chopper, he actually said, "Hey boys, you'll see me in the Paralympics." About 2 or 3 years after they loaded him onto the chopper to the day, he won his first gold at the Paralympics for Australia.
What a mindset to have as your legs fresh blown off. Yeah. You're like, I'm going to have to do the Paralympics now.
And, mate, that's actually what he told the boys as they were loading him onto the chopper. So that's like a cat alpha. So, but you have signs of life. Then when you get a cat alpha, no signs of life, it's like they're dead, but they just can't pronounce him dead. So when that came through, they said, yeah, we got 3 cat alphas, no signs of life. So in your head straight away, you're like, there's 3 dead. And they told us what they didn't know the names, but they told us what company it was, and it was Bravo Company, and I used to be in Bravo Company, so I had a lot of mates there. My old sergeant was there. My good mate Frenchie was there, who's been on my podcast. My good mate Neil on there, who's been on my podcast, and my good mate Foxy there, who's also been on my podcast. So in my head, out of the 20 guys that were there, I'm like, well, there's a good chance that, they've either been hit or they're potentially dead. And yeah, that sort of plays on you quite a bit because, like we're back on base and sorry, one of the things that we got told as well was like, hey, we're on 2 minutes notice to move. So scrap everything that we've got for the next few days. Just get your shit and get ready to go. So yeah, you're sort of getting your stuff on, and you're getting ready to go, but you're also thinking in the back of your head, like, did one of my good mates just die? What's wrong with them? Where are they? Who is it? So many things are running through your head, from a personal perspective. But, 5 minutes later, the really good thing about my platoon in particular, I had a really good sergeant and a really good boss who was our lieutenant, and they said from the very start, they said, if we know something, we'll let you know. And that was from the very start of the trip. So when they found out the names, they came straight to us, and just dragged us out 5 minutes later. And it was I sort of always feel a little bit bad about this.
It's a relief.
Yeah. And I spoke about
the
this.
Truth of the reality is, if you don't know them, it's not as bad.
Exactly right. So, and like everyone knew what they were there for, and they knew the risk over there. But, when you heard with each sort of name that came out, it wasn't Foxy, it wasn't my old sergeant, it wasn't Corey Neal, it wasn't any of the boys, you sort of were quite relieved. So I've always struggled with that from a personal point of view, because you're like,
it's still sad. It doesn't diminish the sadness of it, but it is if you have a personal connection with someone, you can't help that. Yeah,
that's it. And I just remember with each name coming out, like quite a bit of relief with it. Which still sits with me today, but that's another issue. So, and it's not an issue, but it's just something that I've always struggled to grasp.
Yeah.
So, and but I remember, guys next to me that were like best friends with the guys that had died.
That's where it gets hard.
So like, I stand around, I'm sort of like internally celebrating.
Yeah.
And they're like breaking down and crying because, Private Pope was their best mate back in 6RR or whatever. So, I've always felt a bit guilty about that, but if
it was your friends, I'm sure they would have the same struggles and feelings, like the people that were mourning while you were kind of internally celebrating. It would have been the direct opposite. Yeah. So that was that was a tough time, and like since that time as well, since my page is obviously growing and average like something like 5 to 10 million views a month on my social media, just on my Instagram. I've had families of those dudes that have died reach out to me, just reach out and just want to have a chat to me and stuff like that. They listen to the podcast. They love the podcast. That's awesome.
So it's really, really good. But yeah, like it also, like getting to know some of those families now through them reaching out to me, and because none of the guys that were from that night, none of them have ever been on a podcast before they came onto mine. So it was like the first time the Australian public ever heard these stories. And if you do want to go back and you are listening to this podcast,
I was going to say, can you recommend? Because I've listened to like a select handful of yours. What so like someone who's never listened to your podcast or heard about your pod before, any of my audience, what episodes would you highly recommend them to listen to?
So definitely listen to Jay Toop. Jay Toop was in the same building that I was in when he heard about that. But he talks about it through like a journey of where he was as a kid. He grew up in a very not drug addicted household, but like quite a heavy upbringing. Talks about his military career, and he's went through this very big healing path. But a big part of it is, and he's very, very raw on it. He tears up a lot on it because it's so real and raw. So there's a good YouTube version of that, and his name's Jay Toop. I don't remember the number of it, but I'm sure if
is he blonde?
No, that's Corey Neal, which I want to talk about. But I'm sure if you ask me, I can just I can give you the numbers, and if you put it down,
I can actually put it up here for people to look at.
Yeah.
So it was Jay Toop.
Yeah. So that was Jay Toop. He was maybe episode 29, but he was fantastic. And then you had Corey Neal and Matthew French. Those were the other two that were were actually there. So that's
so I'll just put that up for people to look at.
Yep.
So if you want to go to that,
go to him.
episode 29.
29. So that's Jay Toop, fantastic guest. The next one you go to Corey Neal.
Corey Neal.
Yeah. So if
Yes,
you zoom
this
out,
one. I've watched this.
Yeah. So obviously that's not the full episode, but because it's spelt with a double I.
Oh, it's spelled with double I.
Double L on the end. I like the setup that you got here.
Yeah, it's better if someone else was doing it. But wait up, I'll go on YouTube.
So that but anyway, that's the other one, Matthew French.
If I go on YouTube, I'll go to
It's a 2 with the number 2.
Oh, the number 2.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Podcast Corey NIELL.
Yep. NEI.
NEI. Sorry, I got a bit of a dyslexia today.
Don't worry, man, I got it as well.
NEILL.
There it is. So, mate, that's another.
That's episode.
What is that? 33.
33.
Yep. So, and Corey, just a bit of background on him. He was actually the combat first aider that night. So he was there.
Fuck, that'd be a hard job.
Yeah, so he was the one actually working on all the boys to try and keep them alive. Mate, that's if you want to get a glimpse into someone that lives with chronic PTSD, but
I feel like medical in the military would be like one of the worst jobs.
Yeah, but he was a combat first aider. But like, mate, just this like, and he lives a very fulfilling life. He's a father of 4. Him and his wife are very, very happily together.
But he struggles with PTSD a lot.
Yeah, I mean, mate, if you listen to it, you think to yourself, man, that guy gets by really, really well. But his memory lapse. He has this memory issue where he'll just forget his kids' birthdays.
I've recalled you talking about
and shit like that.
That's so fucking sad.
And he'll go to the shops and someone will come up and walk, say good day. He has no idea
recollection of him.
And it's not like he has a big Instagram account where people just think that he's famous. Like he's I think his Instagram account is private, and he's got like 300 people that follow him. So yeah, if people come up and say stuff like that, he struggles. But that's a great insight into what a soldier deals with afterlife. Not afterlife, after deployments. And the other one is Matthew French. Matthew French was there, and he was the dude that was on picket that night, and he was the one with the gun that was walking down, and then the other guy walked up and shot everyone, and he turned around and tried to whack the guy, but he got away. So
fuck.
But that's another good one with Matthew French. But yeah, those 3 were great.
How many episodes have you done?
Oh, man, I think I'm up to like 50 or something. I've stopped over the past.
Well, that run would have taken up a lot of your life.
Yeah, that run. But I've got a whole bunch of people organised to come on in the next few months. Obviously, I've got the birth of my little girl coming up, so that's obviously going to stop me from starting again. But maybe in a month or 2, I'll get it kicked off again, which will be fun. So
You when you went over there, obviously there's outliers in everything. There's outliers in sports, in like athletic endeavors, academic endeavors. Have you ever been in the presence of soldiers where you're like, oh, you're a different kettle of fish?
Like
American like soldiers, are they a bit more like
yeah. So like, what do you mean? Like
outliers in war settings?
Yeah. I mean,
Or I guess they're just different factions. Wouldn't they just be different?
yeah. I mean, look, like the Australian Army overall has bred some of the greatest soldiers from that Afghan war era. You know, obviously the guys that have won VCs over there. There's 4 of them, and they were fantastic soldiers. SAS dudes. There was a 6RR guy as well. But like within my unit, look, we didn't get into a great deal for anyone to be overly like outsourced as an awesome soldier. But you know, the way that people conduct themselves every single day, and the guys that you work around, and you can work out, you know, who's sort of full of shit and who isn't straight away, especially for being over in Afghan. And people that talked up a big game and that were tough, they can definitely, you know, especially after spending weeks and weeks with them, yeah, you can find out that sometimes they might not.
There's a brilliant documentary on YouTube of this guy who lied his whole way to Afghanistan and became like a fucking leader of like a small militia over there.
You have to let me know it.
And he ended up like getting in a shootout in Colombia on cocaine. It's a fucking crazy story. He, like, basically was like a liaison between the Taliban and the American fucking embassy, and he's like lied his way to get there.
Right, I'll have to watch that.
And I'll send you this video of this guy called Magnus that I watch on YouTube. He's a rock climber.
Yeah.
He's like one of the best rock climbers in the world. He's a physical specimen, running, just endurance athletics. He's a psycho. He does a video of him training with the French Foreign Legion.
Yeah.
Which I imagine is like their version of...
Yeah, the French Foreign Legion is just like a...
hardcore dudes.
Yeah. So you can pretty much, background in French Foreign Legion, it doesn't matter who you are or where you're from. A lot of people, criminals, escape countries and they join the French Foreign Legion.
I actually had someone who was in the French Foreign Legion on the podcast.
Yeah.
Richie Elliott. He's a UFC cut man.
Yeah, there you go. Because if you join there and say you've got a criminal record, you actually get a new identity and you can get a French passport after 4 or 5 years of service.
But that training was
brutal.
wild.
It's brutal.
It's not even the physicality of it. It's like just the mental fucking strain it would take on you. You're doing everything on an hour's sleep.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah. It's
brutal. But, man, I mean... I like, when I was in the military, I love that sort of stuff. And even now, like when I did the run, I love that aspect of, like, I mean, when you're in it, it sucks. But when you look back on it, you're like, that was fun.
Do we have anything, are you planning any kind of, like, physical things like that anytime soon?
Yeah.
Anything bigger?
Not bigger, probably just a little bit more brutal, and a little bit shorter. Obviously,
is it for a specific charity or is this one more for you?
Nah, I'll do it for Aussie Frontline Foundation again.
Is that what you did? And the 42 was for 42 lives lost?
Yeah. So we ran 1,042k. The 42k at the end was for the 42 Australian soldiers that died over in Afghanistan during the War on Terror. So that was to signify that. Not many people knew that apart from when the run finished. I'll let that be known. But
before we go, you said a crazy thing on the JP podcast. 42 people have died, but like fucking 400. Oh, I don't know the number. You know the number, but have committed suicide. Yeah.
So since the War on Terror began in 2001 after September 11, so 42 Australian soldiers have died fighting the War on Terror, and since that time, and in between that time, 1,600 Australian soldiers who've committed suicide.
Fuck.
So, mate, it's just one of those stats that far exceeds the outlier of so many people that lost their lives in Afghanistan and sacrificed so much. But, like, what are we doing now for the veteran community? And, like I said on JP's podcast, that's where the sort of run came into it. And for, because, mate, there's so many people in this world, and a lot of people might call me hypocritical for this because I talk talk a lot on social media, but a lot of people in this world talk, and you know, they might say, oh yeah, it's really bad for the veteran community, but I thought to myself, you know, enough talking, it's time to do something about it. So I ran that distance, and we raised $50,000 for the Aussie Frontline Foundation.
Excellent.
And it wasn't about the money; it's more about the, you know, the awareness and bring that to the surface level, so people can understand that type of stat is shouldn't be happening in Australia, and the longer we don't enact on it, and the longer we don't you know, talk about this issue, the more we'll just get swept under the rug and no one will do anything about it. So I thought to myself, yeah, you know, I need to do something about it.
And last thing, if a young bloke is looking at getting into the army, would you recommend it? What would you say if you were to look at yourself and talk to yourself as an 18-year-old man? Would you pitch it to him, or would you sway him away? Or what traits would benefit you going in, and yeah, with the pros and cons?
Yeah, from a personal point of view, I'd never talk myself out of going to the military. I mean, Jesus, I look at the kid that went into the military, and I look at the kid that, or the man that came out of the military, and everything in between that I, you know, went through whilst being in the military. And it wasn't just stuff in Afghan as well. I had my older cousin who was in 2 Commando in the first 18 months of me being in the military. He died over in Afghanistan. You know, so he's one of those 42. So everything that I learned, you know, both good and bad in the military, has sort of set me up to be who I am now. So I wouldn't trade who I am and what I stand for and what I say and the person that I wake up to any morning. I wouldn't trade that for anything. Like, I wouldn't trade that to be a billionaire over in the Caribbean doing nothing every day. Like, I'm very happy with who I am and what I'm standing for. And obviously that stemmed from the military. So I would never talk anyone out of joining the military. It sort of sucks at the moment because I don't, especially when you dive into it deeper that I have, like, it gets a little bit annoying because the country isn't doing the right thing, or their politicians aren't doing the right thing by the country in this moment. So it's hard for people to, and that's showing in the numbers at the moment. Like, we're having the lowest recruiting rates ever in the military and in the police force.
Also, not as much national pride.
Yeah. So
anymore.
So losing that, and that's a stem of things that we're teaching kids as they're growing up, and you know, we're sort of telling them that they're potentially genocidal in their origins, and it's like the land isn't yours anyway, which is another discussion. And so we're telling these kids that, you know, and also as well, like, oh, climate change is, you know, that's gonna, by the time that you're 30, it won't matter because it's gonna ruin your life anyway. So, you know, what we're telling our kids from a younger age, it's turning them away from national service, which is a really discredits, I think, what we're doing, and that needs to change. Because we need to have a strong military, because, you know, there's forever threats going around in the world, like China is, you know, becoming bigger and better and more technological advanced and everything like that. So
A very proud country as well.
And that's the thing. And I think more young people need to be getting into the military. For me, it's been absolutely fantastic. I wouldn't trade anything. I would not change a thing that I did in the military. And I wouldn't change that for the world. Like, you could offer me $1 billion tomorrow and to be like, I'm going to take away all your experiences and everything, and I would not take it. I just think that what I've been through is just way much more, and it was so much more worth than what anyone could ever offer me. So, no, mate, I would say to people, if you do want to get into it, one, start to get fit. Two, just learn how to be talked down to, because as you're coming up in school now, you can actually challenge teachers, and you know, teachers aren't allowed to say certain things to you, but you know, that sort of changes when you get into the military. So understand that, you know, you're at the bottom of the pecking order, and you need to regrow and rebuild yourself. So just be prepared for that, and don't hesitate. You know, don't be someone that goes, oh, I might do this or I might do that. And if you're going to do something in this world, and this is the problem with a little bit and pieces of the world at the moment, is, like I said, there's a lot of people that, you know, do a lot of talking about this and that, and are they going to do this, and yeah, if you're going to do something, then fucking do it. So that would be my if I had a young 18-year-old come to me and ask me, and like my previous self, I'd be like, yeah, if you want to do it, do it.
Well, on behalf of me and all of the listeners of my podcast, thank you for your service.
No, you're welcome, mate.
Thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure sitting down. I have a lot of respect for anyone who's served for this country or any country in general. And yeah, you're always welcome back on. Maybe every couple months you can come and educate us on some politics.
Yeah, definitely, mate. Definitely. I just want to say as well, I noticed you when you had Andrew Carpenter on.
Yes.
Good
friend.
Yeah, he's a fantastic fella, and I just want to thank you for having him on your podcast, because a lot of that issue around that child sexual abuse, it's a turn the TV off type of episode. So for you to have him on and to
fucking sucks to listen to.
It does, and I've had him on my podcast, and it is tough to listen to, but the more we get voices out like that,
Andrew Carpenter is one of the most. Sorry for cutting you off. Andrew Carpenter is one of the most important people in South Australia.
Yeah, and what he's doing is absolutely fantastic. And yeah, for you to give him a voice and make sure he comes on a podcast, it's a good thing, and I thank you for that. So
no, well, I appreciate you coming on, Sam. We'll do it again.
Definitely, mate. Thanks.
Thank you.